What is going on, YouTube? It's your boy H-Dog, and I'm back here today with another video. And I want to go ahead and talk about something a little bit different. Like, I want to talk about what my outlook for gaming and the game industry as it relates to microtransactions and loot boxes. I think, as far as 2018 goes, and this may come off as bold, but I do think there's a good chance uh, loot boxes and microtransactions will die by the end of 2017. And I do think it's a good chance that for a whole year next year that we may not hear about a single game with microtransactions or loot boxes. Now, I'm not talking about any small game, any indie game, any mid-card game. I'm talking about the big games, like the big guns, pretty much. You know, games from the likes of EA, Activision, Warner Brothers, uh, Take Two Interactive, you name it. Um, I do think that next year could be the year where we finally don't have microtransactions or loot boxes in any big game. And hear me out, like, this is just me being optimistic and hopeful that this is the end of it, because mainly for EA, because their biggest game they got coming up that I know of is Anthem, which we haven't really seen any gameplay of, or hell, even a new teaser trailer or anything since its announcement back at E3 this year. And even though some people are worried about the game that it may have microtransactions and loot boxes in it, but let's be honest here. EA can't afford that shit. Nobody can afford that shit. Definitely not Bioware, because why would you try to hurt Bioware even more? I mean, people are still waiting on a game from Bioware that they can come out with that is like a kind of like an I'm sorry or an apology for the people who felt disappointed or just hated Mass Effect Andromeda. Uh, they're waiting on Bioware to come out with that game that was better than that. Especially for people who enjoy single player experiences like myself. And I do think, and I know I've said this before, like, I think that game will have some sort of single player content. That's yet to be seen. But I do think that game cannot afford to have microtransactions or loot boxes or any bullshit surrounding that game at all, because the worst way you can kill a developer is by adding bullshit practices like this. And just when they need to kind of just when they need a game to kind of save them, you would kind of turn it around and fuck them in the ass. Like, it's something that Bioware don't need, and EA definitely don't need. They don't need more negative publicity. They don't need a backlash on the scale of Battlefront 2, or possibly worse. Now, with that being said, since Anthem is a new IP, it may or may not be a huge backlash, but I do think with the ball rolling in the war against microtransactions and loot boxes, it's really imperative that these companies take note, especially EA. Because if you've seen the backlash, the uproar from people on Reddit, from the gaming community, you've seen how much coverage this got from big news media outlets. And you gotta ask yourself, if you're EA, is it worth it? Is it worth going through the same bullshit again? Is it worth losing billions of dollars in revenue? Is it worth losing investors? Now, even though me personally, I do think investors are important for a business, But at the same time, without consumers, there really isn't much of a business for those investors to invest in without consumers. And I think for the time being, EA needs to show that they care more about the consumers and less about the investors. And I do think how they do that is by coming out with a big game like Anthem that has its fair share of offline and online content, a great single player experience, and no bullshit microtransactions or loot boxes or no pay to win anything in this game. I think that would be ideal for EA. And not just for EA, but for BioWare as well. They really need this. And not just them, any other publisher, like Warner Brothers, like Take Two. Now, if you ask me, the reason why Warner Brothers wanted to add microtransactions in Shadow of War is just they looked at Big Brother EA and be like, oh well, they're doing it, so we're gonna do it. You know, the whole monkey see, monkey do stick. And Take Two Interactive, they seen Big Brother EA doing it. They seen fellow little brother Warner Brothers doing it, and they are on the monkey see, monkey do train as well. And I do think them, Warner Brothers, Activision, and Take Two, they kind of need to take a big step back. Now, yeah, they kind of need to take like a big step back and ask themselves, do we really want to be in the same boat as EA? Do we really want to be in that quarantine island, the same boat as EA? Do we really want that kind of negative publicity that could hurt and kill our business? No. No, we don't. And I think they need to publicly come out and say that. Now, of course, with the year winding down, I don't think we'll hear anything big, but I think sometime in 2018, it's a good possibility. Maybe not all at the same time, but we may see more and more developers, more of the big developers, publishers, excuse me, to come out and say, look, we're not going to have this in any of our games moving forward. And some may take whoever says it with a grain of salt, but realistically, you got to think about it. It's not worth it. You know, it's not worth the bullshit. It's not worth you losing business. It's not worth you losing customers, consumers, a fan base, gamers. It's not just not worth it in the end. Um, if you ask me, I think because of this, I don't think Warner Brothers is gonna do it anymore, and I don't think Take Two is even interested at the thought of microtransactions in any of their games anymore because of this. Like, I really don't think they are interested at this in this at all, you know. And you look at other companies besides those two. Really, the only big ones that's been doing it is EA and Activision. You got the little brothers, they got the little brothers, uh, Warner Brothers and Take Two. You know, they see Big Brother doing it, so they're like, oh well, why not? We may look cool in the eyes of our big brother, you know. Activision. Now, as far as Activision goes, they've been, in hot water recently with the whole Destiny 2 debacle about them locking. I think they had locked the Curse of Osiris DLC behind a paywall, and they had like some type of holiday event they kind of messed up somehow. I don't know how, but anyway, they've been in hot water for that with the community, and I do think if you're Activision, if you want to earn the goodwill back from the people, just come out and say that. Just come out and say in 2018 that they're not gonna implement microtransactions or loot boxes in any of their future titles. I think they need to kind of come out and say, you know what, fuck, you know what about that microtransactions patent? We didn't scrap it. Like, if they were to come out and say that, I think that'd be good for them. Um, and especially within light of recent events surrounding EA, I think they need to kind of stay the hell away from that. Um, but yeah, like that's really just my optimistic outlook. Now, I'm not saying this will happen, but I think it's a good chance it will. And when you when you not just look at the potential backlash, the potential harm for these businesses who would do this, like the potential backlash from both consumers and investors. Now, investors, they back away when there's any backlash or outrage, and that kind of scares them off. And at the same time, you lose a lot of money because of it. And I do think if you're these companies, you if you don't want to lose any of your customers, you need to make sure that you do right by them by having quality completed games and not bullshit. You know what I'm saying? That can kind of differ you guys from EA and everybody else. You know. Now, I'm not like some people who may want EA and Activision to burn to the ground in cinders. I want you to be like a prolific phoenix who may burn, who may set itself on fire and burn to ashes, but then rise from the ashes as a reborn baby phoenix and learn and grow from their mistakes. I do think EA is officially on the road to redemption. Their road to redemption starts in 2018. Activision's road to redemption starts in 2018. Same. Now, Take Two and Warner Brothers, I don't want to add them in there. Now, Warner Brothers, I think they really are on the road to redemption because of the bullshit they pulled with Shadow of War. But Take Two, I think they want to distance themselves from EA's bullshit practices. And not just that, you got different lawmakers from across the world, and even here in the United States, where just recently you had 5 more states join the fight with Hawaii against loot boxes and microtransactions, where they aim to regulate them. Now, that's another thing. If you're a business like EA or Activision or Warner Brothers or Take Two, do you really want to take a chance and try to keep bullshit like that in your game even though it's banned? Do you really want to take a chance? No, you don't. Um and I do think they gotta really I would think it's ideal if all these publishers one by one come out and make public statements on this. And somebody needs to ask them, what is your guys' game plan if the shit hits the fan and loot boxes and microtransactions either get regulated by a lot of people or banned altogether? Like, they need to have some sort of strategy. And right now, we don't know nothing of it, but I'm pretty sure something is going on behind the scenes. Hopefully, something that benefits us, the consumers and the gamers, rather than harm or hinder us. Um, but yeah, guys, what do you guys think about all this? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? You can let me know down in the comments below. We can have a discussion about it. I think it's about time for me to start wrapping this video up. It's been going on for almost 14 minutes now. Um, but yeah, just leave your comments down below, and we can have a discussion, talk about it. If you enjoyed my video, smash that like button as hard as you can, and subscribe if you're new, and tap the notification icon. That way you stay up to date on all my content. And with that being said, this has been your boy H Dog, and I'm out.